Hey, Derek, welcome back to What's New in Digital.
How's it going?
I'm excited for our conversation as I think you were actually the very first ever What's New in Digital segment. We are talking before we jumped on about 18 months ago.
hmm
So excited to hear what's top of mind for you in the digital space right now.
For sure. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. It's been a while. I'm glad things have gone well and we got a consistent pace of putting stuff up. So, as we were talking about, I definitely think that what I'm discussing is something that has been brought up multiple times, but is still as pertinent as ever, and that's platform diversification.
Mhm.
For everybody's kind of been still reeling from lack of tracking that we've seen. And that's not just on Facebook, but that's really everywhere. And so where I've seen the benefit of the cross-platform kind of diversification is a number of different reasons. Is for one, you don't have your eggs in one basket.
Mhm.
Uh, I can't explain how much trouble we've had with Facebook in the last couple of months. Things are just kind of going haywire there. And from what we've kind of been able to conclude is that there's potentially a major update coming. And typically, when those are coming down the funnel, there's a big shakeup in current uses. And
Mhm.
so there's just been a large amount of very odd data getting passed from the ads back into the ads manager, and then trying to correlate that with what we see in third party CRMs or tracking tools. So diversification, if we're talking specifically on Facebook, it allows you to not have your eggs in one
Mhm.
basket and to not be beholden to one specific platform. I'm involved in a Meta advertisers group that's moderated by Meta, and we're seeing pages disabled, accounts disabled, right and left. And so, if you're not invested in platform diversification and your Facebook goes down, you've lost your lead source. And so, being able to shift budgets quickly. Is a huge benefit. And I think that the more, even if it's a small allocation on different platforms, you're going to at least be building the pathway to making that shift a little bit easier as opposed to a all out transition because your Facebook page got shut down. So I definitely think that's the main benefit.
Uh, Let me ask you a very just direct question. Do you still believe in Facebook?
Yeah. Some of our, I guess it's per account.
Mhm.
Some of them just seem to be cooking and things are working. And what's interesting to me is some of the ones right now that are humming for me are ones that we really battled in against the current for a long time.
Mhm.
And they've really kind of pivoted there and have done well. The loss of visibility has been difficult, I think, for everyone. And that's a conversation that is being had from startups to Fortune 500 companies. Is how do we get a handle on what we're seeing? So I'm beholden to Facebook because I've been in it for just so long. And I do hope that it's true that there is an update coming, and that's kind of why we're seeing these hiccups, and that it's going to produce something even more beneficial out the back end of this. But yeah, I do think diversification, not just for clients, but for advertisers as well, to be able to speak fluently on other platforms is critical right now.
I am actually not caught up to speed on what the new, I'm assuming you're referring to the next iOS update that's going to happen.
No, so I'm actually talking about we're the rumors have been that there's a Facebook update coming.
Gotcha.
Whether that's to the back end ads side or just
Mhm.
the entire platform as a whole, what has been hinted at is that there's going to be a massive update coming, and from my understanding, it's more towards the platform for us as advertisers.
Awesome. Before we get to point two, one last question. Let's just give the use cases. Someone is heavily invested in Facebook ads right now. Can you talk about what would be your recommendation of the next platform to check out? And also, if the answer is, you need to see their vertical ad spend, all those things. But what should people be like thinking about for the next platform that they go into?
Sure. Well, everybody's kind of hot to trot on TikTok these days. I would say, and it's actually one of my next points around organic strategies that seem to be working
Mhm.
is you just have to really buy into consistent and constant posting of that content. That is one of the main drivers in these platforms in identifying who is motivated to see those lifts organically, is who's providing the most content and who's really bought into providing value not only for their users but for the platform as a whole. So if you're really good on camera, you want to be pulling it out of pocket and doing things all day, TikTok is definitely a great way to go. And then YouTube is going to be another big player there as well. I think that anytime you can get a data footprint within the Google realm is going to be huge. And there's been a lot of audience updates on the Google side, affinity audience, custom intent audiences that are much more in line with what we've dealt with on Facebook. And even on the search side of things, performance max campaigns are so easy to set up, and allow Google to see, I'm just so used to saying Facebook, to really pull in all of that data and give you something there. So I think that not only are you diversifying because you're removing your eggs from one basket, but you're also gleaning information by who's engaging, and can you find new segments there. And the last point of that kind of bleeds into the first one is, because of our loss of visibility and our ability to stack these retargeting audiences, by having multiple streams of traffic coming to your site, you're able to better fill that retargeting pool as opposed to just relying on one specific data source. So yeah, if I had to stack them, I would probably lean right now towards Google just to kind of get a footprint in that platform. But if obviously everybody's kind of going over to the TikTok platform, but I struggle to my correlation. I use this analogy a lot. Is back when Facebook first started, it was like a house party, and when the doorbell rang, you wanted to see your friends and family, and you didn't expect it to be an exterminator with a $5 off offer. That's not who you want at your party. And
Right.
so you weren't engaging with that. And that's totally shifted now, where we get a lot of our shopping from Facebook, right? Like, you see products that you like. But I think that's the mentality that people have on TikTok. Like, they're there right now to engage in content, not so much leave that platform. So again, I think that just goes into building your audience there around a mentality of consistent content, updates, and passion.
Awesome. So let's keep on with number two. I know you gave us a little teaser of what that was going to be, but let's continue on with topic number two you want to dive into.
Yeah, so that would be the organic content, and just having that mentality of constant posting.
Mhm.
It's funny. I've ran across a stream of content producers that are hitting different benchmarks in terms of views and followers and things like that, and they all say that it really started to take off when they bought into posting at least once or twice every single day. And I think that just goes to the platforms wanting to identify those accounts that are going to give the most value. And, I think that's a bit of a shift from, where we were with paid ads, where it's just the people who put the money behind it that are going to get there. And this is kind of that opposite. It's almost like an SEO organic mentality of, it has to be of value. But I think that especially with the rise of TikTok, that people really need to buy into that and know that if you're going to put 1, 2, 3 videos up a week, you're probably not going to get the traction that you hope for.
Are there any content producers that have a great organic strategy that you see yourself just going back to daily to take in their content?
Yeah, there's a couple that I really like, kind of across all different spectrums. Like, there's one that does like NFL weekly things,
Hmm.
but he's constantly like impersonating other quarterbacks, like over and over and over. And he was one of the ones that said, the day I bought into posting consistently every day, that's where I started to see that lift. Same thing with like the fitness and workout industries. you really do realize once you start looking through your suggested feeds or reels, you really do start to see the ones that are they're there because they post a lot, and that's what it is. And so I think a great strategy around that is doing more long form stuff that you can cut up and then utilize. There's so many tools out there that post your content for you that you can automate almost a week's worth of content based on one or two long filming sessions that you want to put in. So it's hard to come up with people right off like specific accounts, but I've definitely seen it cross niches in terms of that. That's just what seems to be working. And I've also kind of heard in response to that a lot of people focusing on SEO again and kind of looking to a more organic approach to kind of counterbalance the paid side of things.
Let's go to point number 3.
Yeah, it's always going to be third-party kind of management tools. I think that's not just from the data side. So attribution tools like Wicked Reports or something like that, that's going to make you feel just a little bit more cozy about the data that you're receiving. But I also think that there's a lot of tools out there that have made big leaps in terms of helping to automate paid. So, if you're working on Google Ads, there's a ton of really awesome tools that have really upped their game in terms of providing recommendations and making it easy to implement those recommendations that, they don't have to be, they certainly shouldn't be your only way of managing your account, but using them as a guide and kind of, for lack of a better terms, like a safety net in terms of, let's make sure that all of our bases are handled. We're crossing all of our T's, and then utilizing your time more effectively on creative strategies as opposed to account maintenance. But I do think that there's just been some big players in the game that I've really liked, both for Facebook and for Google, that have really just provided some really awesome optimization strategies that I think everybody can benefit from.
How deep have you gone on offline conversion?
Yeah, so I mean, as deep as we possibly can, like we're trying, I think that again, utilizing some of these third-party tools will help you get a little bit more granular than you ever would with just basic code tracking. But there's been a lot of like call tracking stuff that we've put in. Yeah, I mean, that's the mission, right? Like I've always said, media buyer is kind of the title, but digital marketing technologist is what I've always kind of coined a good player in this role, because you're not right, the data is. And if you don't have proper data, you can't make good decisions. And so I think that if for anybody out there that's considering working with a media buying company that's going to be doing your paid ads, a focus needs to be on that technical implementation and how deep in the funnel can we get. I think that, and as many data points, like you said, that we can put some sort of measurement on, that's going to drive our strategies. So I think that's basically what any good media buyer is doing at this point.
One last question. I just want to kind of re-clarify and emphasize that point of what makes a good media buyer. So in my experience, you'll get the whole like gamut of it. So, but what I'm hearing is a media buyer is not simply a person who pushes buttons within Facebook or Google. Like, what are the other attributes, whether soft or hard skills, that make a media buyer great?
Yeah. Well, I think that being a digital marketing technologist is really the backbone of any good media buyer, because I'll say it again, you're not right, the data is. And especially now with the ability to do performance max campaigns on Google or dynamic ad content within Facebook, is you're throwing so much out there. And you really need somebody that prioritizes tracking and giving a big picture view, because it's easy to just, like you said, push buttons. And at this point, Google and Facebook, they want their interfaces to be easy. They want a mom and pop shop to be able to hop on and put an ad about a special that they have running. But it's really a media buyer is somebody who takes that deeper look. So I would say being that technician and being just hyper focused on proper tracking, then being able to analyze data and provide that data in a marketing language to the client of how do we take these raw numbers and make them actionable in terms of how we're going to be marketing our product. I also think that you have to have a keen eye for behaviors on each platform. So understanding that you can take one bit of content that needs to go on multiple different platforms and be able to tweak it in a way that fits all of those different platforms. So I really think media buying is a really unique skill set because you have to be a bit of a copywriter, a bit of a digital, developer light, I would say, in terms of being able to analyze code, pull out specific events, and then just obviously a good understanding of the platform. So I think it's just come so much more than just, hey, push the right buttons and load the images.
Right. And I'll kind of end this with tying that all together is then being able to take all that and have the communication skills to explain to a client why stuff is or is not working.
Yeah, exactly. I always make the joke like, most developers would prefer to be like with a big old set of Bose headphones in like a dark closet somewhere, just
right.
punching away. But a media buyer has to be front and center with not just your client, but C-suite executives. You have to not only be able to clearly talk about data, but marketing trends specific to platforms, and then also sell your services and the value. And so it really is just such a diverse set of skills that kind of come together to be a good media buying team.
Perfect, Derek. Greatly appreciate your time and these 3 insights.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.